I was growing up, there really weren't a lot of female protagonists in YA Lit, mostly because YA Lit was really just starting to become a thing. Like, if I wanted to read a book with a main character who was female, I really just had to pick from like Nancy Drew or the Babysitter's Club. And Babysitter's Club, you could be here for a while just debating on whether or not that was a good thing or a bad thing, feminist-wise. I mean, there's a lot to work off of, and that could probably be a whole other video, and there's been a lot of discussion on the internet about it, so I'm not gonna go into it. And that's really weird for me to say, because at the time that I was reading it, I wasn't thinking about it in a feminist way. I was, you know, like 9, 10 years old. But at the same time, I also remember just thinking, I want to read about girls doing awesome things. So I was really, really happy when I found Tamora Pierce. Now, for the longest time, Tamora Pierce books were really the only books that I was reading, mostly because I had a lot to catch up on, because her books have been being published since, you know, the 80s, and I first discovered them in the early 2000s, and those books really had a big effect on me growing up, because here's all these awesome female characters kicking ass and taking name. You know, reading them now, I can kind of see, okay, yeah, Elena is totally a first character of a major original fiction and kind of a Mary Sue if you want to get really technical into it, but for the most part they're really well, solidly written characters. So I feel like I'm a little bit spoiled when it comes to reading YA Lit now that has a female protagonist. So I've said before that Ally Carter has a really good stance on the fact that female protagonists do not need to have a boyfriend and get married and 2.5 kids and all that stuff to have a happy ending. That's something that I think is a really important message to send across to young readers. At the same time, I'm noticing a trend in her High Society series and in her Galaga Girls series. The girl doesn't seem too thrilled about what she's doing. I mean, I had a couple of problems with Perfect Scoundrels just in general. The pacing seemed weird, things weren't explained in a way that were satisfying to me, the ending was really confusing. Just, I wanted some answers and I wasn't getting them. But for the most part, in Ally's books, and also something I noticed in Maureen's books, the protagonist isn't really excited about what she's doing. See, when I read Tamora Pierce, I see these girls who find these challenges and they get discouraged for a little while, but then they figure out ways to overcome them, and then they gain all this confidence and they're excited and they're determined and they want to see their goals all the way through. Whereas a lot of the time, if I'm reading Ally's books or Maureen's books, I feel like the protagonist doesn't want to be doing what she's doing, and she feels like she's just stuck. It feels very trapped and caged, and I don't really know how to explain that better than I just feel like none of these girls want to be doing what they're doing. Now, in The Madness Underneath, the latest Maureen Johnson book, I felt like Rory was really kind of getting the ball going, and she felt a little more determined and she had a goal in mind and she was going for it. But a lot of times in other of Maureen's books, I just feel, why are you doing this if you clearly don't like it? There's a lot of problem with insecurity in both of these authors' books. Insecurity in what the character is doing and how she feels about what she's doing and how she just feels about everything. And I know that that's a common thing in teenagerdom. Being a teenager is all about having no idea what you're doing and being really insecure about it. So I don't know if this is just the fact that Tamora Pierce's books are set in a medieval world where, you know, kids are expected to grow up a lot faster and a lot of expectations are placed on you a lot earlier in life, whereas Maureen and Ally's books are placed in a more contemporary setting, so they have the extended childhood and you're allowed to be insecure about stuff. But it just feels to me like if we're going to be having these characters who are supposed to be sending a positive message out to young girls who are reading them, they should feel like they're gaining confidence with every new adventure they're having, rather than every single book just feels like, here's a new situation and I don't know what I'm doing, even though I faced something similar to this in the last book and I overcame it and everything, you know, turned out okay in the end. It might not turn out great, but we learned stuff. And I've seen this addressed elsewhere where there's a big problem with books aimed at young girls and there's just a big focus on how insecure these characters are, rather than, okay, I acknowledge that this is a really awkward situation for me and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out, and then focusing on the figuring it out rather than continuing to focus on how the insecure you are about something. That's not a good thing to send out to somebody, is to continue to focus on the insecurity rather than focusing on the goals that you need to face, and the sun is in my eyes. So I just really want to propose this discussion of, should we be focusing our characters on becoming more secure and confident in themselves, because that is the point of growing up, is overcoming all these insecurities. Do we need to change this, or do you think it's okay the way it is right now with, you know, it's constantly focusing on, I'm scared and this is really, really weird and I don't know what I'm doing and I don't want to be doing this, but I'm just gonna keep at it because I have nothing else to do. It just boggles my mind that when there's these series of books and you have an opportunity to let the characters grow and evolve, that you just continue to focus on the fact that I'm 16 and I don't know what I'm doing with my life yet. I'm not leveling up from it. Let the characters level up. That's all I'm asking. If you're writing a book series, let your characters level up. Alright, thanks for listening to my rambles about books and stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Say hi to the internet, Lainey. No? Don't want to say? Okay.